Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. In today's episode, we're talking about the if. The if. There's something in the if. If this would have never taken place, you would have never experienced this. Everything has purpose. There's a reason for everything, right? So I hope that you enjoyed this episode on there's something in your if.
Welcome to the Filling Station. Ooh, ooh. Let's talk about it. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, ooh. We're gonna refresh, refuel, inspire, motivation with the Filling Station. Ooh, ooh. With Miss Dee Dee.
So have you ever found yourself at a place of, one, you didn't understand where you were. Two, you didn't understand how you got where you were. And three, you're so focused on the one and the two that you can't even figure out the three, which is how do I get from this place, right? We focus so much on, when things happen, we get so focused on the how things happen, or sometimes, let me say that, we get focused on the how it happened or the why it happens. And I get it. I'm an overthinker, totally an overthinker, and I want to understand the why, but sometimes we don't always get the why. But the main thing is, okay, Lord, what is it that I need to do to move past this situation? I've prayed so many times, Lord, this is where I am. How do I move from this place? And we get so, again, caught up in the one and the two to where we don't focus on how to move from that place. But have you ever found yourself, at a place to where now you understand why something happened and before you really, really didn't get it, right? And thinking back, if that would have never taken place, you would have never experienced this. Whatever this may be, right? So have you ever found yourself at a place to where because this happened, I'm now in a better place, or I'm now in a different place? Because that could go both ways. But have you ever found yourself at a place of the if? If this would not have taken place, I would have never experienced this. And I recently, right? I didn't understand the journey at first. And it's like, okay, God, I get it now, right? Because if I would have never experienced this, I would have stayed so comfortable in that comfortable place and not moved, not changed, not wanting to do anything. I would have been in that place of comfort, right? I'm comfortable there. But God had to allow some uncomfortable places, some uncomfortable times, some things that I didn't want to go through, some things I really didn't want to experience. But I'm so grateful that he did. Why? One, I see God from a different perspective now because I see that he brought me through those places. He gave me the strength to endure those places. He pulled me from that place. But if God would not have allowed this, I would have never come out of this. Have you ever thought about that? If God would not have allowed this, I would have been so comfortable and not moving, and I would have been at that standstill or that stagnant or that, I ain't going nowhere place, or I'm comfortable where I am. And God saw greater. There's something greater that, he wanted to produce through me. But because I was in that place of comfort, I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything else, but God knew that there was purpose on the inside of me. So he had to make me uncomfortable so that I can go out and seek him. During that uncomfortable place, you got to be careful who you seek, right? I've said that before. I needed to go and spend some time with the Lord. Okay, God, if you allowed this, what is it, one, that I need to see? Open my eyes that I may see clearly whatever it is that I need to see. Two, what are my instructions to move from this place? If you allowed me to experience this, what are my instructions so that I can move forward and not stay at this place? Because I know you did not bring me to this place just to leave me at this place. So God, what are my instructions? I pray that often. What are my instructions? I say, well, Lord, help me to obey your instructions. Help me to obey your assignment, the things that you've given me, the things that I believe that I heard you say. Help me to be obedient. And sometimes we may think, oh, is this really God, or did God really say, or is this really my instructions? God will let you know. He will let you know when you get off track. Let me say that. He'll let you know when things are not right in your life and when you're taking the wrong turn. He will let you know that something is not right. So we must first, if we're at that place, we have to go and spend some time with the Lord of, okay, God, what is it that I need to see? And I've had to pray so many times, God, touch my heart so that my heart is right, so that I can receive your instructions, right? Because sometimes when things happen, y'all, we don't have the right attitude. Our attitude is different. Our response is different. How we treat people is different. It's just different because we get our feelings and our emotions, right? We're emotional people. He created us that's how we're created, right? But we can't be controlled by our emotions. We can't allow our emotions to make decisions for us, because let me tell you, if you make emotional decisions, you are going to be in a situation. You're going to have circumstances. You cannot make emotional decisions. You've got to be exceptionally careful with that, right? So I need to make sure that my heart is right when something happens, if something happens, that if. I need to make sure, one, that my heart is right and that I'm not responding emotionally. I'm not thinking. And one of the things that I try my absolute best to do is to not respond right away. And yes, sometimes things, require an immediate, response, but I need to make sure that I'm led by my response. I'm led in my decisions versus just jumping on the next thing and just because sometimes we respond and we react and out of that goes back to that emotion. We got to be able to control our emotions, especially in those serious places because every decision that we make is going to affect the next chapter in our life. Every decision that we make is going to affect everybody around us or everybody that's connected to us. So we must be exceptionally careful at the decisions that we make, right? So and after I pray, God, help me to not make emotional decisions. Help my heart to be right with you. Help me to, I want my heart to be in oneness with you so that I can receive the flow of your presence in my life, so that I can get my instructions. And I seek the Lord for instructions. Lord, if you allowed this, I know there's purpose. What is it that you want me to do? Because God, I want to do what you want me to do, because the more I go against that, that's when I'm going to have more opposition. That's when I'm going to have more turmoil. That's when I'm going to have more trouble. That's when I'm going to have more afflictions. That's when more things are going to happen, because I'm going against the flow of the Lord. I'm going against, I always say that's like swimming against the current, right? So that will wear you out. If you've ever tried it, it will wear you out, because the flow is going in one direction and you're swimming in the opposite direction. You need to go with the flow so that the flow can help carry you and it's not really wearing you out. That way you're not swimming against the current. So I don't know who that's for today. Stop swimming against the current. But I want the flow of the presence of the Lord in my life. And I pray for the instructions. I pray that I don't make emotional decisions. Lord, I want to go with your flow. I want to do what you want me to do. And sometimes, y'all, that's not easy. That is not comfortable. And yeah, we always want it to be comfortable and want it to be easy. I don't know who came up with this. Life is easy. Life is not easy. Life is a challenge. Life is a journey. And you've got to know that you are not alone, right? He said he'll never leave you nor forsake you. He's with you every step of the way. You are not alone, but you can't make it without God. And I say that often. You can't make it in this journey without God, because you're going to need some instructions. You're going to need some strength. You're going to need some guidance. You're going to need some help along the journey, right? You're going to need those things along this journey, but you have to spend some time with him and cultivate your relationship with him, so that when things does happen, you can go to him and ask. That's his word. He says to ask, and that's where we miss it at. We think we can figure it out on our own, and we can't figure it out on our own. We cannot live this life on our own. We need God, right? So yeah. And back to the if this wouldn't have happened, I would have never experienced this, but it took me acknowledging God and acknowledging where I was and making sure that my heart was right, that I was able to get my instructions to move past that place, because at the time I was not understanding where I was. And I felt like I was in a dry, lonely place. You ever felt like you were lonely? Like even though you're surrounded by people, you just feel like you're lonely. Like, why do I feel so alone in this situation? And then Dee Dee, you go back and spend some time with the Lord. You need to be spending time with God and finding out what your instructions are, because I look at it like this. If something is trying to distract me now, I know that there's something greater on the other side of the distraction, right? That's something to think about. If you're at a place now and you're being distracted, pay very, very close attention to the things that you've prayed about or the things that you believe in God for, because you could be very, very close to that answered prayer. You could be very, very close to that manifestation. And the enemy's assignment is to distract you and to keep you from reaching that destination, right? So you've got to learn to keep pushing even when, you don't understand. You got to keep putting, Lord, give me the strength to keep going. Lord, give me the strength, to keep pushing. You've got to keep pushing, until you reach your destination. So if I'm at a place and something is trying to distract me, that's my place of key focus. I don't know. I know I'm in right standing with on everything that, has been outlined before. I'm doing what I believe that I'm supposed to be doing in this season, right? So if something is trying to distract me, I know that it is something greater on the other side of the distraction. I just need to pay attention. I need to stay focused. I need to be keen in with my praise and worship, my spending time with God, my one-on-one time with the Lord, and not get so thrown off to where I can't hear from God, my instructions, and that I can't receive from God, that my heart is not contaminated, that I can't receive from God. So y'all we got to be careful with the receiving part, right? So in my book, that's where I say I struggled at sometimes, the receiving part, because the enemy will try to make you think you don't deserve something, right? That's another subject, y'all. But the if, right? We're talking about the if. If this never took place, I would have never experienced this. And during the if, I always say there's something in the if, and we focus so much on the what has happened and the why it's happened, instead of, okay, God, what are my instructions? Because you allowed this to take place. How do I move from this place? And Lord, make sure that my heart is right. Make sure that my heart is not contaminated, so that I can receive all that I need to learn in this situation, because I know there's purpose, and I know that something greater is on the other side, and I don't want to miss it on this in this assignment, so that I don't have to get all the way here and then have to go back to step one, right? It's bad when you're at step 8 or 9, very close to 10, and you miss something in step 1 or 2, and then you have to go all the way back and repeat those steps again, right? So I like to get it the first time, so I don't keep going through it over and over and over again, and I don't want to go backwards. I want to move forward, right? So there's something in your if you're at a place of, I don't understand, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not doing anything, or make sure that your heart is right. Make sure that you're spending time with the Lord. Make sure that your heart is not contaminated. And what are you placing before the Lord? These are things that I needed to go back and address, right? So let me tell you the good, right? the real good part, right? So if I would have never experienced what I experienced, I would have never experienced what I am experiencing. Let me say that again. If I would have never experienced if I would have never experienced that, I would have never been in position to experience the presence of God, experience what I am experiencing now. There is purpose for everything, and we must be willing to flow with the Spirit of God. We must be willing to flow with what God is doing, right? And not be at that place of caught up in the caught up in the why, or, the why. We get so caught up in the why, y'all, instead of flowing and knowing that there's purpose. And Lord, what do you want me to do to move from this place? But I have experienced the Lord in such a way within the last few months. Let me say that. I am so grateful. And at the time, I did not understand where I was. About a year ago, I just did not understand where I was. I didn't understand what I was supposed to do during that place. I never stopped spending time with God. That was never the question. It's just that I didn't understand where I was going, what direction God was leading me. And sometimes we have to get to those places of, I always say he had my attention, right? Because I didn't understand. It's like I want a step, but I don't know which way to go. And then God has to allow us to, okay, I got you, but this is one of those journeys. This is the part of the journey where you have to totally trust me. See, he'll allow some places to where, you can make some decisions and you be like, okay, I believe this is what God is saying, right? But then there's going to be some times where God, I don't know what to do. I trust you for direction, right? So if God would not have allowed this in my life, I would have never experienced where I am now. And I am so grateful at the if. Y'all, it's something in the if. Don't let that situation or that circumstance or those issues stop you from moving forward. Don't let those places hinder you right now. Don't let those places stop you from moving forward or going forward and taking the next step, because sometimes we get fearful of taking the next step. Just like the baby when they're learning how to walk. Sometimes they'll take that one step and they're hesitant about taking the next step, right? They're thinking, really thinking, how should I, could I, would I, all of that good stuff, right? With the next step, y'all. I'm telling you, let God lead you. Allow the presence of the Lord to lead you in your next step, because there is something in the if. If you're at that place, it's for a reason. Get what you need to get. Learn what you need to learn. Experience what you need to experience so that it can help you. It's preparation for your next chapter in life or your next section in the journey, right? Your next place in the journey. So stay focused at that. And there is something in the if. Remember that. We may not understand it at that time, but I am super, super grateful that God has allowed each and every challenge, every high, every low, every mountaintop, every valley. I am so grateful at that, because those places shape your character, right? Yeah, it shapes us. It molds us, right? Like Jeremiah on the potter's wheel, right? He shapes us and molds us. And sometimes, God knows exactly what to do to get our attention. He knows exactly how to do what he needs to do to get our attention, right? And yeah, sometimes I believe it involves a little pain, right? And many of us don't want to go through that. But if God allowed this, right, there is purpose for your if. Yeah, that's something to think about, y'all. I am super, super excited. I am so excited for all that God is doing, y'all. Sometimes we don't understand it, but we have to trust God and go with the flow of God, right? I like to leave you with this, right? Because it's not what happens to you that really matters. What really matters is how you respond to what has taken place, right? That shows a lot about your character and who you're developing, what you're developing, and all of the good stuff and all that in between, right? So I am Miss Dee Dee here at the filling station, y'all. Have an awesome day today on purpose.
Wanna refresh, refuel, inspire, motivation. It's the filling station.